Welcome to Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino, Mike Grimm, and Justin Gaard with you, along with the head coach. And the Golden Gophers have a little bit of a break here in terms of no games during the weekdays. The next game will be Michigan coming up on Saturday. So we'll ask the head coach. I know he mentioned in the post-game show 3 off days for your players. Just one, the requirement by the NCAA, but 2, just to let them take a break in the middle of a really an historic 8 or 9 game stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, you hate to do it, take 3 days off, because it's just you get so sloppy. But it's very, very important for these guys. They have not had a break. We went back, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we looked back. This is the toughest stretch in the history of Gopher basketball. Nobody's ever played this many ranked opponents in a row. And we even looked back, obviously, in college basketball, it hasn't happened since 2011. So you're doing that in front of no fans in the middle of a pandemic with a bunch of new guys. As much as a coach hates it, it's probably good for them to physically and mentally get away because it's been a heck of a stretch. And then obviously we've got Michigan coming up on Saturday. But there's an expression in coaching: would you rather be well rested or well prepared? The longer and longer I do this, I may say well rested. Now, with a bunch of new guys, obviously very, very important to get, to just keep getting better on the court. But they definitely needed it, and hopefully they come back refreshed and ready to go on Thursday.
What do the coaches do during this time off? Is it all Michigan all the time? Is it looking at some of your own tendencies because you have a few days? What's the breakdown for you guys with the guys not being around?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a bunch of stuff on us, and where can we get better? After 14 games, and what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Obviously I watched the Iowa game a couple of times, evaluated that. We just played Michigan, so that's pretty fresh, unfortunately, on our minds. But yeah, I've really evaluated us. And is it something that I like, not like? Can we change? But also with an understanding that we only got 2 days going into Michigan. It's not this normal deal where you have 5 days of practice. We don't. So you can't. Every time a coach gets time off, he wants to change everything. Yep. And the closer and closer that you get to it, you don't change. You just get better at what you're doing.
And also from that standpoint, you've talked about this a lot, that once the season gets going, especially the Big Ten season, between required days off, travel days for a road game, a game day where you're certainly not going to run these guys a lot, that there isn't a lot of time for what you would call a good old-fashioned practice where, you're maybe trying to do some implementation of teaching or improvement at some sort of a thing. So this, I think, for a lot of people, I looked and saw this schedule, oh, this will be a week you're going to get 3 or 4 nice practices in. And a lot of times teams respond to that, but it won't be the case because of different things going on.
No, I mean, that's the biggest thing, as a coach is you're never going to get substantially better over the course of a week. It's like anything else. You're trying to get better at something, whether it's losing weight, right? You're trying to lose 20 pounds. You're not going to do it in 2 weeks. And your focus shouldn't be 20 pounds. It should just be 1 day at a time. And for our guys, it's that just 1% better at something that you're doing. Because you're not going to substantially get better in a couple of days of practice. But yourself is so important. The man in the mirror is so important to keep your confidence going. The team collectively, we've lost 2 in a row, obviously, right? Well, how do we get their confidence going as well as teach them? But, you have opportunities as a player, whether or not it's before practice. Maybe it's 20 minutes getting shots up, 20 minutes after practice. Maybe it's shoot around. That's one of the reasons why I love Gabe Kalsher so much. He absolutely is so focused every single day. If he has an opportunity to get better, he's getting in there and getting better. And that's the key to all of this. That's the key is when you have opportunities on the court, you got a ball, you got a basketball, go work on your game. And it doesn't need to be 5 hours because you're going to wear yourself out. But maybe it's a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. And that's why sports is obviously such a great metaphor for us all and a great lessons for us. It's not going to change overnight. You just got to just slowly but surely keep getting better.
So you went back, go ahead, Grimmer.
I was just gonna say, and when you have that, and you have you can't get together NCAA wise because of a practice, because of the mandated days off over the course of a time. They can still get into a gym a little bit. Can they also? I mean, in the season, do you do much in terms of strength and conditioning? Do they go to the weight room? Do they do a lot of that stuff as well? And is that flexibility?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we probably do about 3 days a week now. I mean, we sometimes it's recovery, sometimes it's lower weights, higher reps, et cetera. So our strength coach, Steve Feldy's terrific at that, understanding that. He's got great experience there. But we do lift during the year. We don't do it as much, as in the fall, but we certainly want to get them in there. They can always get into the gym, regardless of if we're allowed to work with them or not. We don't have as many managers as we had pre-pandemic, but we have shooting machines. You should always don't wait until the spring. Don't wait until the off season to get better. You can always get better.
So as you went back and watched Iowa a couple times, what stood out to you? In a road game where you took a couple of punches, cut it down to 5 at the end, but just couldn't quite get any closer than that.
We cut it to 5 with about 5 minutes to go. Had a great response, which we had not done well on the road. Now there are no fans. This is hard for people to understand. They're all neutral sites, but they built a lead. We came back, cut it to 5, but they're so good offensively. And we cut it to 5. Luka Garza shot fakes from the 3-point line. We bite on it. He pulls like a 16-footer, like it's a layup, swish. We come down, we get fouled, we miss 2. He gets to the basket. We can't, so they just offensively, you hate to say it as a coach, but they're going to score their points.
Right.
Now, we had to play better defense. We didn't play great defense, but can you respond on your end? And we missed a lot of shots. We really did. And I hate to say that. But when you're playing Iowa, they're going to dare you to make threes. First time we played them, how many threes did we make, Grimmer? 17, correct? And do I want to be shooting that many threes? No, but they're just sitting their big guy in the lane and saying, okay, I'm not going to give you a layup. You got to make threes. And we missed, I counted a bunch of them. But, give them credit. They executed offensively in the last 5 minutes. We weren't able to provide enough resistance there on the defensive side of it. And then we were not able to counter their offense with made shots for us. But it felt certainly different than the other 3 losses. We were right there. We were right there in the first half. They won a little bit of run. We countered, but we just they executed a little bit better than we did.
You mentioned in the post-game show too a little bit about how the 3-point shooting and you get open looks and they kind of dare you to shoot, and when they're not falling, as a coach, when you think analytically, the 3-point shot is a great shot. I mean, it'd be hard for, I think, any coach to say any of your guards don't take a 3-point shot when you're open, but you got guards that were open taking threes and they weren't falling. So as a coach, how do you handle that from a standpoint? Okay, you run in, because frankly, the kind of the comeback, where you got to within 5, all of a sudden, Booth hits a 3, all of a sudden Jamal hits a 3, and you trim it to 5. So I don't know if you just stick with it or what is, the strategy from a coaching standpoint when, they're not falling, but you got guys you have confidence in.
You just have to understand what they're giving you. It's almost like in football playing the prevent defense or something. Like they were just saying, okay, give them open threes. You have to take them. I don't think too many of them were bad shots. I really don't. And just confidently shoot it. Now, certainly we were trying to get into the middle of the zone a little bit. We were trying to get it to Liam a couple times, and we did. He missed a couple free throws. But they're going to dare you to do that. You got to be able to knock it down. Take great ones. That's the bottom line. I mean, we're shooting 30% from the 3. That's clearly not good enough. But just make sure you're taking great ones. I mean, Gabe was 1 for 6. He took maybe 1 bad shot. Right. I'll live with it. But we also gave up 86 points. So, it's all kind of connected. I thought we took good shots. We just didn't get stops down the stretch where we needed to.
To me, it felt different. Like Wisconsin does that to you also, right? Where they kind of just dictate where they want you to shoot from. The Iowa game felt a lot different than the Wisconsin game, where Wisconsin, I felt like, you were just playing right into their hands, taking maybe quick shots or bad shots, where Iowa, you were getting the ball into the middle of the zone, probably as well as we've seen the last few years. And I'm thinking about even Jamal's three, the last one, that comes off a pass from Liam, if I remember correctly. So it seemed like those two games were different, where they might try to force you to do the same things, but Iowa was just, you weren't making them, and they were good shots.
For sure. Like the 4 losses that we've had, 3, I just felt like we just fell into the opponent's trap, and we were just not intelligent at all. Iowa did not feel that way. I just felt like we missed a lot of open shots. And again, you're going to miss shots. It comes down to how good's the response on the other end defensively, and that was really the issue. But I didn't have a problem with the offensive attack at all. I really didn't. I thought we were getting to the lane. We moved the ball. I mean, we had the most passes that we've had all year. We were sharing it. We were getting to the other side. We just couldn't hit a shot. But again, when you can't hit a shot, your defense better be great. And we have, over the last couple of years, I mean, we've guarded Iowa pretty well, and we did not. And that's where we need to get better.
What do you think? Last question before the break. Iowa won as one of the better offensive teams. I mean, they're a good inside-outside combo, so they're tough to guard to start with. But you've mentioned now a couple of times, that you didn't guard them. What is a point of emphasis now as you get back to it from that game defensively that you'd like to improve on?
Well, they're the best offensive team in the country, and they just keep coming. And they have the National Player of the Year. They have the best player in college basketball, and the best player in college basketball down the stretch made huge plays. I think he had about 10 points in a couple minutes there, where it just was like it was nothing. I mean, it was just, that's what he does. He just keeps going and he wears you out. He's terrific. He's absolutely terrific. And Joe Wieskamp, terrific down the stretch. I mean, they've got guys on their team who have scored a lot of points, whether it's in high school, whether it's in college. Where we just got to get better at, defensively is just more resistance, whether it's on the ball, off the ball, just making them earn it a little bit, more than what we're doing, but also understanding we've had it's not like the actual defense is the problem, because we've had great defensive performances, whether it be Ohio State, whether it be Michigan State. It's just about, just ratcheting up that intensity. But they have a way to fatigue you too. Iowa does, because they keep coming at you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll have more. Stay with us. Our show is sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Onward for Business, presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. They want to be on your team when you buy or sell a business. Onward for Business, the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino, Mike Grimm and Justin Gaard with you. The show is sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. They want to be on your team when you buy or sell a business. Onward for Business. Again, it's the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward. I want to ask you, and we do this every now and then, mostly when you guys get ranked. So you stayed in the rankings. You're ranked 19th by the coaches, 23rd by the writers. And I think coaches get asked this a lot, so I'll throw it out there. What do you think in terms of rankings? Do you like your team being ranked? Would you prefer they're not ranked? Does it matter? What's your thought on rankings?
Well, it doesn't matter. I'd say none of this really matters in the grand scheme of things, but I'm not going to go down a deep, hole with you guys about the whole meaning of life. Of course you want to be ranked because it's good for your program. It's obviously creates interest, which is very, very important. Whether or not it's in recruiting, you talked about more, you get more exposure, which is great. I mean, that's you do need that. When you're not, you become a little bit irrelevant. But it does not really matter at all. The hard part about the rankings has become, it used to be once a week, Mondays. Well, now you got guys, they're ranking every day. And legitimately, you lose, you're dropping 8 spots. You win, you go up 7 spots. It's so volatile. So the old days, I really liked, and I did think it was kind of cool. A Sunday night, it was like everybody kind of huddled up a little bit, like, okay, they won this game, they lost that. Do they drop? Do they stay? Do they not? But in the end, I've always said I'd like rankings to be like mid-January, and then we're getting close to there and so on. But obviously, we are playing in the middle of a pandemic. But it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter for the Michigan game by any means. But it is always, it's good for our guys to feel a little bit. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because there's so many metrics in this thing, and really the writers and the coaches, it's not important when it comes to NCAA selection show. But it is good. It's good for recruiting. It's good for your fans to see it and get engaged for sure.
Well, I think it's good. Like this year in particular, you lost both games last week and you're still ranked. And I think you went up like 10 spots in the net. Like, I think that speaks to what we were talking about earlier, that's the Big Ten this year. Like, obviously you were 16, you're now 23. Like, I was thinking normal years, you lose a couple of games and no one's even thinking about you the next week.
Well, and it's like we talked about before, and I don't think we can just kind of gloss over this like it's irrelevant, that we're going through the toughest stretch in the history of Gopher basketball, the whole program. We are going through the toughest stretch since 2011 of any college basketball team ever, since 2011. So it is good in the sense, and again, writers and coaches, no disrespect to them, because I don't even know how serious any of them really take it, but it is good that at least they do see like, hey, we are playing in a tough stretch. So it is important for our guys to know that, not accept losing, but just keep getting better, keep moving forward. But we live in such a volatile world, where, you're National Player of the Week. Like, all those awards need to go away. Give the awards at the end of the year. Can we give them at the end of the year? But it kind of is the world that we live in as well.
Well, you mentioned this stretch. So it's 7 straight games when you take on Michigan this weekend. It'll be 7 straight games against a ranked team. As you mentioned, in Minnesota history, there's never been a case where there's been more than 4. The Gophers have, on 4 different occasions, played 4 ranked teams in 4 straight games. One of those was a vacated stretch of games. There's never been a stretch that we can find in the history of Big Ten basketball, because if you take the St. Louis game out, your first 8 games to open the Big Ten season will all be against ranked teams. And I say this just as a historical perspective. You think about this, your 8 games, you have played the top 2 teams, Michigan and Iowa, 4 of your 8 games now when you get through Saturday. And then on top of it, 2 of the other games are at the other 2 teams, at Wisconsin and at Illinois. And then you throw Michigan State and Ohio State in the mix, and you're sitting with this tough stretch. Just as a point of historical reference, it was a league that you coached, 2011. You were an assistant at Louisville, the Big East at that time. And St. John's played 8 straight ranked teams: Georgetown, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Notre Dame again, then Louisville. Do you remember, did you beat St. John's or lose to St. John's? Looks like you lost to St. John's big, 88-63. Steve Lavin had the Pitino's number that day, it looks like. And then
Pitino's? Assistant coaches don't lose. The head coaches lose.
You're not taking blame for that one. Then it was Cincinnati.
They never get blamed.
And then they sneaked in a Duke game, non-conference game, to get it to 8 in a row, and they actually beat Duke there. But they only won 3 of those 8, and that's how hard that can be. It's a grind, and it's part of why you need days off and all of that. And it doesn't matter, like you said, in the grand scheme of things, nothing matters, but it does offer some perspective on what your team has been through here since December the 12th.
Yeah, I mean, and it's when you're in a conference, and I think the old Big East was kind of similar to what the Big Ten is now, where you have so many teams that are ranked. I mean, that's obviously why we're going through this right now, is there's a lot of really good teams. But it's like I said before, it doesn't really matter. What matters is, can we keep getting a little bit better every single day? Understanding our guys may be worn out mentally and physically a little bit, which they are. And I think everybody's quicker to be worn out mentally right now because we're in the middle of playing. We keep trying to normalize it. It's not normal. Regardless of if we get wiped out by COVID or not as a team, what we are enduring right now, and everybody, not just Gopher basketball, it's not an excuse, but it's not even a little bit normal. And we keep trying to cover it and talk about it as if it's normal. It's not normal. And that's okay. I'm not offended by that. I mean, we all have a part in this thing, and it's all right. But as a coach, you have to be aware of, yeah, hey, maybe it is good to get him some time off because this is a grind, and more of a grind than it normally is by any means.
I thought it was interesting, the college football championship last night. Like, Nick Saban was as giddy as I've ever seen him after a championship. And he talked about that. He's like, this team did everything. Like, what they just did was really, really difficult. And Ryan Day, I think after the game said, I don't want to see these guys for a month. Like what we've done here. So I think that speaks to your point. Like, obviously that's for a championship. There's a reason why they did it, but to have those two coaches, even particularly Saban, like, he was just so jacked. He's like, I really just wanted this team to win because of all the stuff that they have done and how they've handled everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, really, that's the only way they can have fun is winning, because we can't take them anywhere as a team. You know, they can't go on the campus. You know, they're either in the dorms or they're with us. And like, when it's time to practice, like, we're not going to be playing dodgeball. I mean, like, we got to get better, you know, like, so the only real reward right now is getting better and winning. And they can't go home, you know, I mean, like, I'm not trying, this is not an excuse, but you're sitting there, you have a 1:30 game the next day versus Iowa. We're in Carver Hawkeye till we got tested at 10 o'clock. We were sitting in there till 10:45 p.m. Waiting for results. And for those guys, I mean, they're a lot more resilient probably than as you get older you make it out to be, but it's a grind. It is a absolute grind. And right now, fun is winning. That is it. And, you know, we just got to hopefully, you know, get back on track and find a way to get it done.
All right, we'll take another break. I do want to correct myself. The Patinos actually got the win that day against.
Not to say.
And so you probably do now want to take credit for that.
That was the year you scouted everybody, probably. That's what you're going to tell us, 2011.
I did scout everybody. All these assistants, they got the notes. They're writing things on their hands, all off the top of the head, baby. You know what you got to do? The biggest thing you got to realize as an assistant is the head coaches don't really know. You just got to sell it and just keep going. And that's the key. And I was able to do that year.
You got it done. Was that a Final Four year, or was that the year after?
That was Final Four year. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We have more to talk about. We'll get to Guardsy's long, what is it, Guardsy?
Contested twos. Long contested twos.
Long contested twos. See, I've been waiting all week for it, and I can't remember the name for it. That's coming up next. Sunbelt Business Advisors sponsors Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back to Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino. Mike Grimm and Justin Gaard with you, along with the head coach. We're glad you're with us here on this Tuesday. No weekday games for the Gophers this week. They will next play Saturday at 1 o'clock at Williams Arena. Spencer and I will take air at 12:30 Saturday here on the Gopher Radio Network. Minnesota ranked 19th against Michigan, ranked number 5 in the country. We'll certainly preview a little of that game. In fact, the Wolverines play, I think, tonight, right, against Wisconsin, and we'll talk about that as well. But first, it's time for the long contested two with Justin Gaard and Richard Pitino.
Well, really quick, right now, according to the most recent bracketology, you're a 5 seed playing Richmond in Region 3. How do you think you'd match up against Chris Mooney's Spiders? Have you looked at them much?
Oh, that's tough. Obviously, the committee doesn't like us, you know, and they put us in Indy too, which is hard. So I always love that. I love it so much when people actually talk about it, report on it. But you know what? It's good for our game to talk about it. It's interesting.
Well, it's better to be in than out. I mean, like we talked about, it's better, like you say, because people they check on it, they click on it. There's a reason why they do it, and I know how much you hate it, which is why I wanted to bring it up. That was really the only reason. But a 5 seed, that's pretty good. That's you've only been that once, I think, and that was your first tournament team here.
Do you think you're going to put Ed Conroy on the scout for the Spiders this week just to get an early look?
Yeah, I think we'll go Ed Conroy for that one. He like pretends to have like a Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina background. So I always geographically do that. So yeah, we'll give that one to Ed. I'll get him started on it today, actually.
Yeah, get him going.
Texas Tech, Belmont on the other side. So yeah. That's tough. Texas Tech, Chris Mooney. We've all seen that. You mentioned before the Iowa game that you guys had talked about as a team what went on at the nation's capital last week. I'm curious how does that come up? Is that something, this is a serious thing in the world? Like I've got to bring this up with the guys. Do players come to you and say there's some things that we probably need to discuss? How does that manifest, I guess, is the way I'm asking it.
Well, so like the day of the game versus Michigan, they all have social media. And, I was watching it kind of in the hotel, and, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, should I address this? Should I not? Because you're trying to gather all the facts of, because you see it on TV, you don't really know what's going on. You're not there. So you're trying to kind of figure it out, right? And that's leading up to the Michigan game. So I did address it before the game briefly, but I just say, guys, like, this had nothing to do with right now. Let's certainly talk about it the next day. And, it's like I don't remember who I said it to. I think I said it, like, what they're going through mentally, I guess you could say it's the equivalent of like the 60s. I obviously wasn't born there, but it seems like that's kind of the time from a social unrest situation that they're going through. When I was in college, the only thing that I really went through like that was 9/11. That was a big deal. Obviously lost my uncle in it. Well, they're just going through a lot mentally, regardless of even social media and cell phones, which is too much for any of us. We're not equipped to deal with that. We're not. Well, then you're throwing along all these different things and they're in their formative years of their lives, so I brought it up. And you're starting to see other teams, like Iowa read a statement before the PA guy or whatever, and you're seeing NBA teams talk about it. And, so they look up to those guys, So it's important for us to address it, talk about it, just be upfront and honest with it. Like, hell, I don't know what they're going through. I'm a 38-year-old white guy. Like, I have not experienced what they have experienced before. And I don't know what they're thinking. So can I pull it out of them, which a lot of the time I can't, right. Give them the forum to speak freely, and then let them understand too that if you are struggling with something, whether it's pandemic or whether it's all this stuff, like, we got people you can talk to as well. And so that's kind of the way I address it.
And you don't need to single anybody out, but I'm curious if there was anything that was said either this last week, or even, in earlier conversations that you've had. We all know about 2020, but is there anything in particular that kind of hit you from those discussions?
Not really. I mean, they've always been pretty good and honest about it. What I just try to get them to understand, like, hey guys, like, here's what I think I can control, because I'm kind of the leader of this organization. Like, we're not going to tolerate any type of racism or anything like that. Or, I'm going to do my very, very best within my life to be able to create some change. And that's the way I feel I can do it. I also want, and I call it what it is. I had some guys say, do you mind if we kneel for the anthem? I said, absolutely not. Like, hopefully we're past getting offended by that. If they want to peacefully do something, that's the biggest thing. That's what was so disturbing about the Capitol thing was, what happened to peaceful protests? And it just was such a bad look for our country, regardless of you're Republican or Democrat, or like, no, that is a bad look for what our country is all about. And so I told our guys, like, we're with you. Whatever you want to do, like, we're with you. As long as there's thoughtful intention to what it is that you're doing, we're with you 100%.
We've talked about this before, but I think you're basically off Twitter, right? On your phone. You said enough's enough, and which I think is healthy. Like, I wish I truthfully had the ability to do that with our job. Like, we have to kind of be on social media a little bit. Again, it's not the real world, as you've said a million times, but everything just feels so much cleaner in your life when you're not dealing with all of that. How's it been for you this week?
Yeah, I'm on like day 4, and I'm not kidding when I say, like, I mentally, my mind feels so much more clear. And I basically told our two kind of video guys, like, hey, if anything pops up in recruiting or something I need to know, just screenshot it and send it to me. But like, and don't filter it out like all the assistants always do all the time. Don't let them see this. Don't let them see that. Let me make sure I'm educated. There's good motivational things that I've seen on there from time to time. But, for you guys, it's certainly different. But for a coach, for an athlete, I see zero value in being on it. We'll get the news. I don't need to know right away about something in politics, or maybe like I don't need to know what Wake Forest basketball is going through right away. Like, we'll get to it. But the most important thing for all of us is, can we cut all the fat in our lives? How do we just keep getting rid of it? Because there's too much excess in our lives. We want too much. We want too much information. The happy people are the ones that are oblivious to it all. So I'm hopeful that I can continue on that path for sure.
You look happier. You certainly look happier than I've ever seen you the last 4 days.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, it's funny. The longer and longer I do this, I try very, very hard not to get angry. Then there's times during the game where I will, and that's okay too. There's time and place for that. But I try to be very, very thoughtful. I try not to get too high, try not to get too low. Like I could sit there on the bus and stew about our transition defense. Where's that really going to get me? Like, let's make sure Thursday and Friday when we have practice, we're right. And we're addressing what the issues are, and we're holding those guys accountable. Because that in the end is really what matters. And when it comes to social media, I mean, I can't tell you how many times my wife or my friends, can you believe what this person said on this? And I'm like, who the hell cares? Like, seriously, why does this matter? And but it's designed to be addictive. That's what it is. It's like going into a casino, and we got to fight that off.
Last thing kind of on this, you may have seen, well, you probably didn't because you weren't on social media, but D'Angelo Russell the other night when John Krasinski asked him about the Capitol, basically said, well, I've got some time. I'm going to flip it on you guys. What did you think? And had all the writers go through. I'm not asking this in a serious way. I'm curious, how often have you wanted to do that with a member of the media, with us, where we ask you a question and you just flip it on us and try to figure out what we think about something?
No,
Once
I
a
don't
week,
care.
All the time?
I don't care what you guys think about it. No, well, I think what people have to understand, and it's different when you're an NBA player versus a coach. I'm not offended by being questioned about something. I'm really not. It's okay to have different opinions. As a coach, there's a million different ways to skin a cat. And, the media really is, and I think I've gotten much better at it. They're just trying to do their jobs. And even if they're trying to create a story, which can happen, it's okay too. Like, if I'm a media member, what am I going to want to create a boring story? Like, no, you're probably not good at your job. So no, I mean, if I had it my way, I wouldn't want the media to care about my opinion. So I'm trying not to care about their opinion moving forward. So I did not see the D'Angelo Russell thing. John Krasinski obviously has a very good opinion on certain things, but they would just take a long time. I'm all for getting that thing over with quickly and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, he said, I got some time. I've never envisioned you going, I got all the time in the world. Like, what, after a game, like, let's just hang out and talk. But it was good. It was, I think, a good discussion. Yeah. It was interesting. Who's 24? D'Angelo's 24 years old. That's the other thing I keep thinking. It feels like forever ago that he lit you up in that first half at Ohio State.
How'd he do in the second half, Guardsy? How's he do in the second half?
He had 0. Did you guys win that game?
0. No, we lost. Andre Hollins, who got hurt, by the way, playing pickup the other day. But nevertheless, but again, it's what's funny about the media player coach relationship. Almost 99% of the time when you sit down with a media member, they're not idiots. Just like when the media member talks to the coach, we're not idiots either. Now, we just make a decision, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But it's a matter of where media and coaches get sideways, or players, is when that respect card, both ways, it's a two-way street. When they cross it or we cross it, that's where we struggle a little bit. And that's where I try to kind of stay on that line. But everybody's going to have an opinion. And again, we're going through it in politics right now. If you're a Democrat versus a Republican, you're going to have difference of opinions. It's okay to have that. That's all right. And just like in sports, or whatever D'Angelo Russell obviously did with our media as well. And normally 99% of the time, that makes sense. Right. And you kind of keep moving.
All right, very good. There they are, the long contested 2. Always worth the listen. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have our final segment here. It's sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Onward for Business, presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Wanting to be on your team when you buy or sell a business? It's Onward for Business, the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward. Stay with us. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's our final segment with Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino. Grimm and Gaard with you, along with the head coach, sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. And Coach, as we've talked about early in the show, no games during the week. You got a game on Saturday, Michigan. It's 1 o'clock. We'll take air at 12:30. Wolverines tonight play Wisconsin, a battle of two of the top teams in the league. How much, will you watch that game tonight, or will you wait to watch tape later? Obviously, you're going to pay attention to the game, but do you want your guys maybe to spend some time tonight to watch that game, knowing that you'll have an opponent Saturday?
I'm sure they'll watch it. If they don't, that's fine too. I wouldn't be offended by that either. I want them to get some rest and relax a little bit. I'm sure I'll be driving kids around to basketball practices and skiing and skating. So I'll probably miss it as well. But, I'll get around to it at some point. But yeah, it's good for them to watch it. But we also just played Michigan. It's not like we're unfamiliar with them at all. But, if you love the game and you want to watch it, great. And the more guys you have in your locker room who love the game, the better.
So with we've talked a lot about Marcus Carr scoring 30, probably not going to be sustainable for you guys to win. Is it sustainable for him to go through, half or halves like he has, where he hasn't really been? Obviously, he's a part of the offense because they're devoting so much to him. But it seems to me having him, shoot a low percentage and score 13 points is probably not ideal for him. I guess what's the balance of how you want him to be aggressive, but also move the ball, because he's going to be such a big part of what other teams are trying to stop?
Yeah, well, shooting a low percentage is not ideal. That's the key is nobody's telling him to score 30 points. Nobody's telling him to score 25 points. He doesn't need to do that for us to win. The goal is for us to win. He doesn't need to do that to be a first-team all-conference player. He doesn't. It's about playing the right way. There's times with Marcus where he's going to be ball dominant because that's what he is. He's a guard. And he can over dribble a little bit, but a lot of times when he over dribbles, some good things happen because he's got a really good handle. It's like watching Kyrie Irving. Like there's times when Kyrie Irving's playing, like, oh, he's over, and all of a sudden something really good happens. So Marcus will do that, and you have to live with it from time to time. But when you're missing 13 shots, that's not ideal. But when you're constantly talking about it, you can't allow it to become reality. The bottom line is he does not need to score 25 a game to help us win. He does not. Now, 16, 17, be great, but there's other things that him, along with everybody else, need to get better at. But from an offensive standpoint, I am consumed with shot selection. I am consumed with playing the right way. I am not consumed with how many points you're going to score.
What are teams doing with him right now? He has, he's been challenged maybe a little bit more than early in the season. What are you seeing there, or has nothing much changed from the start of the year?
No, I don't. It's going to even out. You're not going to score 35 points every game. You're not. I think last game, they certainly played a lot of zone. Marcus took a couple of tough shots late, but I think he was trying to get us back in the game a little bit. Right. But there's more to it than just offense. Defensively, we all got to get better. I do think we moved the ball very, very well versus Iowa. Iowa didn't do anything in particular that stopped Marcus. They were in a zone a lot of the time. Marcus just needs to keep getting better, just like them all. He's having a phenomenal year. We've had a lot of great moments. Let's keep moving forward with it. So it's not one thing that anybody's doing. Ohio State tried to take him out of the game, and other guys made him pay. That's the key. It's five guys collectively playing the right way.
It was fun to watch. Booth had a pretty good game, it looked like, and it seems like one of the ways you can get him going, he's such a good cutter. It seems like he has a good sense of where he needs to be. I think Brandon Johnson had an unbelievable pass to him in the post, and he had a couple others. Is that a way that you can get him some cheap ones and kind of get him going?
Yeah, Booth and Gabe are really good cutters.
Right.
They cut with speed, which is great. And that's the key to running offense is everything that you do, you got to do it with speed, whether it's sprinting into a ball screen, whether it's coming off of a down screen. But those two guys are terrific cutting. Booth is, I thought he played well last game. There's things that he can get better at, but I do think he's trending in the right direction, and that's the key. I think Gabe is playing really well. I really do. There's an obsession with his 3-point shot, and I understand it. I'm not like it's not a stupid story by any means. I get it because he shot 40% in the, his first year. If Gabe was making those threes, you'd be talking about him as one of the best guards in the league. I still think he is one of the best guards in the league. I think he defends his butt off. I think he plays hard. He's driving to the basket. He's doing a lot of things that are helping us play really well.
And you mentioned him. He has done such a good job keeping the guy he's guarding in front of him. Like his perimeter defense seems to be like amongst the best in the league, if not the best in the league. There are times where it's hard to do that. And I think, other guys on the team are getting beat off the dribble, which is creating some things. Perimeter defense, just give me an assessment of how you feel about your team perimeter defense wise.
Yeah, I got to get better. We got to get better on the ball. We're if you look at after 14 games, I think our offense has been pretty efficient. That's the big buzzword. I think we're top 25 in that. Probably playing a little bit too fast. Everybody looks at the tempo. The worst thing about KenPom is all these people who have no idea what they're talking about can throw out these stupid numbers. I do think we're playing a little too fast. Defensively, our rebounding has drastically improved. I think it's got a lot better. We're just not being disruptive enough, and that starts on the ball. We're allowing teams. It's again, we look like we're up 10 and we're playing prevent defense in football. We can't hope you miss a shot. We can't just try not to foul. We've got to be more disruptive. So that's what I'm really looking at. Moving forward is how can we take you out of what you're doing a little bit better? And it all starts on the ball. Defensively, everything starts on the ball, and that's why Gabe is so good. I mean, they try to ball screen him. He slides. So he don't run around. He slides over it. And he's always seems to be right in front of his man. And it's, can you draw a charge like Marcus Carr did on Luka Garza? Or, those are the keys. So we got to get better in that regard for sure. That's the main focal point.
All right. Well, very good. That is all we have time for. I know you're going to spend most of your off days running kids around to ice skating lessons and skiing lessons and not worrying about basketball. So that's good. So
that's not true, by the way. I'll be worrying about basketball, but I also have to do those. I don't remember ever. I'm not kidding when I say I don't remember my father ever driving me to one thing in my life. And for some reason, I was at skiing, skating, basketball. But that's why you got to crank out the work when you're at home, or at the office. But I love to do it. And it's you can always be a great father. That's always been my mentality. I can be a crap coach like I have been the last 2 games, but I can always be a great father. And that does matter to me. And a chauffeur as well. And the problem with my wife, because we haven't crapped on my wife yet.
That's true. That should be sponsored weekly, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I bought her a car, unfortunately, that can't drive at night and can't drive in the winter. So that's where I come in, where I always have to drive. So I got to find a car that my wife can drive at night because she apparently can't drive at night. So that's where I come in.
Snow tires. Get her some snow tires on her.
I do have snow tires, but hers don't work in the snow. But I did get her snow tires, but she can't drive. But they look really good in our garage as well.
It sounds like she might have something going there with just telling you something to make sure you're doing all the work maybe.
Yeah, that's the key is act scared to do it, because the roads are icy. My favorite question that she always asks me is, how are the roads? And I always say the same thing. They're like the roads in the winter in Minnesota in January. They're always the same. Year 8 here, they're going to be a little bit slippery. I would suggest not bombing through them, but you'll be all right, in your little bubble and Edina there. You're going like 4 minutes each way. You'll be okay. You'll be all right.
All right, we'll talk to you Saturday.
Drive safely.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
He's the head coach, Richard Pitino. For Justin Gaard, I'm Mike Grimm. This has been Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College.